Running's my job. It's like my livelihood, and it made that really stressful. And it took away the beauty of like simplicity of running.
In your last Olympic cycle, you went through something traumatic when you were assaulted running canalside. Can you just tell us a bit about that?
It was just a Wednesday in March, and it was daylight in the morning, and I was just warming up for a session. I wasn't alone. I had someone on the bike behind me, but probably about 50 metres behind. And before I knew it, two guys on a moped like came from behind and like grabbed my bum, and it started like shouting like horrible things at me, and like I don't even remember what they said. Like I kind of just froze in that moment, and like everyone tells you about being assaulted was true. Like I just didn't know what to do, but thankfully like the person I was with shouted from behind, and they like then sped off in the distance. But it took me like a good few minutes to actually realise like what had happened, and like kind of went into shock for a little while. And it wasn't actually, still somehow did my session as normal, and it wasn't until I got home really and I like reflected on what had happened. If I run on my own, since that happened, I'm acutely aware of like who's around me, or like if there's someone else around, that if someone that I suspect could do something, like I could shout out, or you do look around and know what's about. And I tend to run with my phone a lot more now in case something did happen and I can reach for help.
Going back to that moment, what goes through your head when someone is physically touching you?
I think the scary thing for me was that I wasn't alone, and it was the fact that I wasn't alone that stopped them. And actually thinking about what could have happened, it took me a long time to be able to run on the same paths again and like be able to run confidently on my own. I was always like texting, even if it was just my mum, telling her like, oh, I'm leaving for a run now, I'm doing 5 miles, I should be back at this time, I'll text you when I'm back. And like having people on like Find My iPhone so that they could see where I was and make sure, you know, it just like, it really did implicate my life. And like I spoke up about it at the time because I knew of people that would never run again or run alone again as a consequence of what happened. But so I just wanted to kind of raise awareness to kind of stop this thing happening.
I think the beauty of running is that it's so liberating, and you can just go for a run without equipment, without a venue. So how did that kind of impact that element of it?
It did kind of like take away the freedom, and like normally you would go for a run and like it would clear your head and like you wouldn't have to think about anything, and it was just kind of like your time of the day where it was just you and running.
Could you talk me through all the things that have been impacted within your training by that moment?
For a long time I would always have people with me, but I never run in the dark unless I really have to, and if I do have to run in the dark I won't run alone. For instance, sometimes I do run on the canal, but if I come across like someone on their own, I do become like acutely aware of like where was the last time I saw someone, where's like my quickest like exit, or where can I get off quick, or how can I get help if I need it. So yeah, it has impacted like day-to-day training. It's rare that you ever run outside and not have someone shout at you, or someone pull over in a van and like make a gesture, or like drive along closely and shout something. It's like a day-to-day occurrence, and like I don't know how on earth that's socially acceptable still. It kind of becomes like just part and parcel of like running. And I remember my partner saying to me, he's like, someone shouted at me today whilst I was running, and I was like, how do you think it feels to be a girl every day that runs? And like often I will wear headphones in daylight if I know I'm somewhere like pretty safe, and like that kind of does stop it. But it is crazy actually, like how many people think it's okay. You wouldn't shout at someone just walking the dog, so why shout at someone running? And like it does make you think about your outfit choices. Like when I was younger I used to wear like tight lycra shorts all the time wherever I was, but now I'd probably think, oh, maybe I'll wear something a bit more conservative, like I'll wear leggings, or I'll wear like baggier shorts.
When what happened to you happened, did you go to the police or tell anyone at your governing body?
I did reach out to the police, and I was actually, loads of people came forward from like the governing body actually to like offer me support if I needed it. And also I think they put something together about women's safety and like what you can do, and like put together a bit of a document just so that people felt more like aware.
There was a lot in the press and the news about women's safety in general. So do you think that kind of helped raise awareness of it?
I think it was only a few months later that the death of Sarah McDonald happened, and I think it really came to light there. And I think there was a lot of like women's like safety protests around that time, and actually it came to light quite a lot in that year. I think it was 2021, and I think for a while it was quite like high in everyone's minds, and I think it has like petered out a bit, and it's not really at the forefront of everyone's like minds. But I know recently like clubs in London are trying to promote that safety element again, especially now that the dark nights are coming in.
What advice would you give to men as well, men who know about the sport, who watch the sport, who are involved in the sport, or just men who like walk in the street and can see that stuff happening?
For instance, if a man is running, make yourself known to a female. Like say you're coming up from behind, like I don't know, do a big cough, like make a noise and make them know you're coming, because it can be really like frightening if someone just like comes past you, or like wear a head torch, like something to make you more like visible. And I would say think about what you're saying. What are you planning on achieving from catcalling a girl out of your white van window? Like what do you think is going to come of that, other than them probably feeling hurt? It's really difficult because I don't know how you would ever enforce anything, and I thought about it long and hard, but I think it's just a self-awareness of like what you're doing and your actions and what implications that might have on women.
So what advice would you give to people who want to exercise safely?
I mean, I'd probably advise like picking a well-lit route, somewhere not secluded where you know the street lights, wearing something visible at night, and making sure someone knows like roughly what time you'll be back. I wouldn't say it's necessary to take your phone with you, but that's just my personal preference and what I feel safer doing. But like just making sure someone knows where you are planning on going. You run with someone if you don't feel safe. Like you have to make yourself feel comfortable, otherwise you're uncomfortable.
How do you feel about the fact that you have to do all of that?
It makes me angry that that's even a consideration, and everything that happened a couple of years ago was a big wake-up call. It does make you really think about stuff, and it does make me angry that like I have to think about where I'm going to run, or what routes I'll take, or what time I'm going to run, and how I'm going to restructure my day to make sure that I can always run in daylight if no one can come with me.